The 21st century is the Africa century. This century, it's going to see Africa not only leapfrog, but Africa innovate in a way that the world has never experienced before. African scientists, African young people will use their potential and deploy their talent to the maximum so that the continent will prove the entire world that it has come to a stage where it can lead the century of its own. This is the century of the African continent.
Only 100 of the 450 million young people who will be on the labor market will have jobs. This is because of deindustrialization and the fact that Africa does not invest nearly enough in research and development. For example, the US, China, Israel, Asia, many parts of Europe spend between 3 and 4% of their GDP on research and development. And this is not just in terms of PhDs and people who are doing research, but also into the commercialization of these ideas for them to lead to concrete, impactful solutions for society. In Africa, no country spends more than 1%. And this is a very big problem.
One of the big challenges we have in Africa is that we have really big gap for the scientists in Africa to be really in, let's say, in a hot topic in science and technology. And that is because one of the things like we are disconnected from the rest of the world.
We wanted to break the barrier, the administrative barrier and the geographic barrier that will prevent young African scientists. We want to break those barriers, tear down those walls, have the young scientists gathered in Africa and the world dignitaries, the world leaders in the fields of science, policy and innovation want to bring them together in Africa.
The biggest challenge facing the development of STEM in Africa is a set of enabling university institutions. In order to do education, whether it's STEM or some other field, including the professions, you must have institutions that are prepared to provide the learning environment and the transition to the world of work.
So the next Einstein Forum hopes to change this through a few things. The first is by organizing the largest scientific conference in Africa that rotates to a different African country every 2 years. Our objective with that is to bring multiple actors, scientists, business people, policy leaders, politicians, to come and talk about what's happening in science, what is new research saying about various topics of interest to society, and how science can continue to provide solutions to the many challenges, the grand challenges we have in Africa, and to chart a concrete way forward together.
We want the world to know that something great is coming from Africa when it comes to science, mathematics, technology and innovation.
We are building a strong community of scientists through our NEF Fellows and Ambassadors. They are Africa's top scientists under 42. They are active in their countries trying to change, influence, and improve development of the academic environment, and most importantly, investments in research.
We have just filed a provisional patent for a rapid, affordable, and non-invasive device that can accurately detect malaria.
In our laboratory, we have been able to come up with ways or strategies that can create tissues and hopefully in the future, organs that can be used for transplantation. We have found a way to bypass the addition of growth factors, cytokines, small molecules, and so forth.
Today, I'm going to talk to you about a microgrid power system from maize cobs. We are generating electricity, light from maize.
It is important that African scientists lead the study of African land and African geology, because the maps we create will form part of our heritage.
We believe we have Africa's top scientists within our community who are in the multiple fields of science, any field of science, doing breakthrough research. In addition to our fellows class, we have our NEF ambassadors who run Africa Science Week in their countries. Last year we had it in 34 countries and we expect to have it in 40 countries in 2019.
I'm very excited about the Africa Science Week. I think it's such an important platform to raise awareness of the importance of science and broadly STEM disciplines for society. and the advancement of humankind, and particularly the gaps in skills that we have in Africa. So I really commend AIMS for this initiative because they're reaching out to the young people, and the sooner that we can expose them at much lower levels of education all the way up to top leadership and trying to influence policy will really take us in the right direction.
What's interesting about Africa Science Week, it is trying to make science cool. It's trying to make a scientific career viable, something that people want to do, can do, and that has a direct impact in society. We're making the link between science that's done through research and the things that we see that create industrialization and change in our society.
So innovation is about transforming an idea into a product, a process, or a service with an economic finality. And there are typically 4 stages to innovation. So the first stage, of course, it's the generation of the idea. And then the second stage is to go from an idea to a prototype or to a pilot project. When you are successful with this prototyping of the idea, you can move to the next phase, which is the demonstration phase. So basically you scale up. And then the last stage, when you are successful with the demonstration phase, you move to what we call the industrialization or commercialization phase. Now, for this innovation to be successful, beside the technical aspect, you need to have the right financial framework. You also need to have the right partnership. So that's the innovation framework that we have to rely on when we discuss about going from lab to market. Now, that's one aspect. Now, when you talk about foresight is about imagining the future you want for your country or for your continent. So when you imagine the future, you have to decide in a number of areas in which you want to build your future. And for us, we think that there are 3 strategic areas for our future. And the first one is what we call the low-carbon circular economy, because the low-carbon circular economy will enable Africa to be independent from an energy standpoint. The second pillar is the digital economy. The digital economy is today the single most important driver for innovation. And this will help the continent to bridge the gap in terms of GDP with respect to the leading countries. The third pillar of our vision is the precision health, which is an essential driver for economic development. The last pillar is the human capital development. So basically, building human capacity in terms of harnessing what we call the 10 most important digital technology for the future of the continent.
In addition to the road mapping work that we're doing and other policy initiatives, we also publish Scientific African Journal that is trying to take research off of shelves and publish in a multidisciplinary, a transdisciplinary way and highlight the research of African scientists. In addition, we publish a public magazine, Scientific African Magazine, that translates research from across the continent from within the Scientific African Journal into articles written by science journalists that the public can understand. Our objective is that science becomes alive and has use for society, because our goal is to connect science to society. So why don't you join us on this journey?
The next Science Forum Global Gathering is happening in Kenya in March 2020. We want to warmly invite you to join us in Nairobi from the 10th to the 13th of March 2020. We're looking forward to seeing you there and to celebrate science and technology for Africa's transformation.